Oh, that's weird. Hang on, stand by. What is going on here? 1 second, everybody. Alrighty, there we go. Welcome, everybody, to what will hopefully be the last time I have to do this live stream. Not that I don't like Starship, but these delays, literally just because of the weather and some ground system stuff, but delays for Starship Flight 10 have really started to wear on me. It's been a lot recently. I want to see this thing get off the pad. I want to see it like do something, you know. So we are back once again for the third time to hopefully see Starship embark on its 10th test flight. There is a lot of things resting in the hands of this specific Starship sitting on the pad. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen today. We are T-minus 22 minutes out from the launch of this. You can see the little countdown timer here on the screen above the text here. But SpaceX is already live. They went live fairly early, I feel like, compared to what they have the past 2 days. And Elon is on the stream again. He was on the stream yesterday before they scrubbed. So I'm sure they're talking about a lot of similar stuff they talked about yesterday. But let's just tune in really quick to get a glimpse at what he is saying. Or get a glimpse? Listen in on what he's saying. That's what I'm looking for. That's the word I'm looking for. Looks like I have to refresh my page here. Oh, there we go.
Tanker ships to refill the Mars ship's tank so that it can thrust from
Let me
Earth
know
orbit
if you guys
to
can hear
Mars
this or not.
and have enough propellant left for landing. So this is orbital refilling is also not something that's ever been demonstrated before. So that would be a brand new technology. We also have at SpaceX figured out how to dock repeatedly with the space station. So in a lot of ways, this is like docking, and in some ways it's easier in that SpaceX is docking with its own craft, but no one has ever demonstrated propellant transfer in orbit, to the best of our knowledge, and so this would be propellant transfer at a very large scale, and but with full reusability and propellant transfer, those are the key technologies needed for building a city on Mars, and I'm confident that the SpaceX team, which is incredibly talented, will achieve these goals, and we will be landing ships on Mars in the future and building life on Mars, building greenhouses and life on Mars, and ensuring the long-term survival of life as we know it. And it's important to note here that obviously, we are effectively stewards of life here on Earth. That the other creatures cannot build spacecraft and get to other planets. So if there were to be a cataclysmic event, like a giant meteor that destroyed the dinosaurs, or ultimately the sun will expand to envelop Earth and destroy all life, we know this is an undisputed fact. Then if we don't take life to another planet, all life will be destroyed. So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we do bring life to other planets and ensure the long-term survival of life as we know it on planet Earth.
And I mean, aside from that, there's so much that Starship unlocks by being able to do these things. Like, we'll be able to go to Mars, but there are other just transformational things by being able to take that many people, that much stuff to space for that much less money.
Yeah, I mean, I think like understanding our planet better, being able to move people around the planet, make it feel smaller and more accessible. You could go anywhere on the Earth, in less than 40 minutes, basically, in terms of flight time. So I really do see Starship as being this thing that can connect us, just like Starlink connects our information. This can connect us more physically.
Yeah. So there's really nothing faster than a rocket. Really, an orbital rocket is the fastest thing that we know of of the fastest means of transport. So, like you could go from LA to Sydney in less than half an hour. You could go LA to Tokyo in less than half an hour. You could go from New York to Singapore in half an hour. Everything's probably half an hour, basically. Some things might be 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yeah, sign me up for that, please. All right, cool.
Cross the Atlantic in 10 minutes, no problem.
Please.
Man, even these guys on the webcast,
you're going 25 times the speed of sound,
like,
so that's
they
30
just want to
times.
see this thing go already. So they're going on their rant about making life multiplanetary. We already know that spiel. Obviously, that's one of the main reasons. One of the main reasons that Starship is being developed in the first place is to send people to Mars. So, with that being said, I'm going to jump over here and let's talk a little bit about the objectives for today. I know I've talked about it a lot in the past 2 streams, but for those of you that are just now joining and maybe did not hear the objectives or hear my rants, or they're not rants, but my rambles the past 2 days trying to see this thing fly. Let's just get into it. I'll try to make it shorter than what it was yesterday. So basically, as I said at the beginning of the stream, a lot is resting on the shoulders of Starship Flight 10. There are objectives that they've been trying to achieve with the new version 2 Starship that they've been unable to achieve because of issues that have, flared up, issues that have appeared on the Starship V2 variant, issues that they were not expecting. They haven't even had a proper reentry with this vehicle yet, like the new V2 variant with updated flaps. It's longer. There's a lot of differences about this that could potentially affect it on a reentry. From a reentry standpoint, coming back into the atmosphere. And so obviously they haven't been able to test that. They've been trying to test the Starlink payload deployment mechanism inside of the Starship, and that has been unable to successfully deploy any satellites. They've had issues with the payload door opening and stuff like that. So there's a lot I'm hoping to see today on this flight. It's going to be very similar to Flight 9, Starship Flight 9, which we live streamed in Starbase. We were there in Texas back in May. Everything just went into the ocean. No booster came back for a catch or anything like that. Same thing's happening here. The booster on this flight is Booster 16. Super Heavy Booster 16 will take Starship up to its altitude for stage separation, and then it's going to turn itself back around partially, and it will splash down off the coast from Starbase out in the Gulf. And so some big things, the highlights that I'm looking forward to today, kind of already mentioned them, but obviously getting this thing to engine cutoff. I'm pretty sure Flight 9 made it to main engine cutoff on the second stage, the ship stage. They were able to get into that coast phase, and like things were looking good from there. But then once they got to the payload deployment point is where things started to go wrong. So right off the bat, Flight 9 had 8 Starlink simulators on board. Flight 10 will also have 8 Starlink simulators on board to test the payload deployment mechanism that nicknamed the Pez dispenser. In case you don't know why it's called the Pez dispenser, it's because the satellites are literally spit out of the rocket as kind of like the Pez candy inside of the Pez candy dispensers. If you guys haven't seen those, look them up because it's a fun little thing. But Flight 9 was unable to get its payload bay door open, so none of those Starlink satellites could deploy. And then right after that failure with the door, Starship lost attitude control and kind of just like went into an uncontrolled spin on a reentry. And so they didn't have a proper reentry into the atmosphere under control of the flaps on the Starship. So with Flight 10, we're hoping to see both of those things corrected. I think they can make it to main engine cutoff on the second stage, because they made it to main engine cutoff on second stage in the last flight. It's just pushing a little bit further, like they were doing with V1 Starship. V1 Starship had a couple issues in the first 3 flights, but every single flight you saw gradual progression. They made it further and further every single time until finally Flight 4, even though their flaps got eaten alive by the atmosphere on reentry, they were able to re-enter the atmosphere with proper stability and control. The Starship didn't lose control during reentry. So I think we are there. I think we're kind of almost seeing a repeat of the V1 Starship, where it took 4 flights for them to get it took 4 flights for them to get through a proper re-entry on Starship V1. And this is going to be the 4th flight of Starship V2. So I'm holding out optimism that they're going to figure this out on Flight 10. And we're going to see a proper re-entry for the first time with Starship V2. We're also going to see those Starlink satellites get deployed. In case you guys are wondering, if maybe you're not, maybe you haven't looked as deeply into this subject as I have or others have. They are deploying Starlink simulators. They're not real Starlink satellites on board today's flight. The reason for that being, Starship's not going into a complete orbit today. It's on a suborbital trajectory, but it is going so fast that it is like just a little bit slower than the orbital velocities needed to maintain a stable orbit around Earth. So no matter what, Starship is guaranteed to come back into the atmosphere. That way they do not have any type of giant, massive space debris left up there, because Starship is big. If you haven't seen it in person, I highly recommend you do, but Starship is a big rocket. And so that thing getting stuck in orbit it would not be a good thing at all. So until they are confident that they can put this thing into a stable orbit and successfully deorbit it to bring it back down to Earth, they're going to keep launching this on a suborbital trajectory until they're kind of comfortable with the way it's operating and stuff, and they like trust the vehicle to do what it's supposed to do. And so all of those Starlink simulators are also going to burn up on re-entry along with hopefully Starship doesn't burn up on re-entry, but those satellites are re-entering the atmosphere right alongside Starship. So it makes no sense to put real satellites on board, because they would go to waste. They wouldn't be able to stay up there if they did. So just simulating the Starlink satellites today to confirm that the payload deploy mechanism works. So those are the 2 big things I'm looking forward to. We just got to get past payload deployment and get into reentry. There'll also be a engine relight. A single Raptor engine on the bottom, on the base of Starship, will relight to simulate a deorbit burn, just to show that Starship has the ability to flip itself around, slow itself down, and then flip itself back into the correct orientation for re-entry interface. And so just that the engine relight's kind of like one of the small things. They've been able to successfully do that a couple times. I don't think they've done it on Ship V2, but like the engines work, so we know the engines are working. So that's kind of like the last thing I'm worried about. It's mainly just making sure Starship is able to maintain its orientation, does not lose attitude control, and we can get those satellites out of the payload bay this time around. Those are kind of the highlights here. I'm glancing over at the Starship stream right now. You guys can't see it, but I can. I'll pull it back up for you guys in a second. But it looks like they are almost done with fueling. We are just over T-minus 10 minutes until launch. I want to say the weather, they were saying something about like 45% go for the weather. But just looking at the background here, which, here, I'll pull this back up here. So just pulling this back up here, you can definitely see some big improvements with the cloud coverage compared to yesterday. Yesterday, the reason they scrubbed was due to the anvil rule. You could see a very wide anvil overspreading the entire area, and there's a risk launching Starship through stuff like that because anvil clouds are typically attached to thunderstorms. And so if you fly a rocket through a thunderstorm, you spawn the risk of having your rocket struck by lightning, and lightning will wreak havoc on your rocket, whether it be electronics or causing a spark and igniting something on the rocket. Like, there's a lot of things that can go wrong if lightning strikes your rocket. And so, well, you can't see it anymore, but the view you saw there just a second ago, you could tell the sky looks much more clear than it was yesterday, which is a very good sign. So hopefully we are on track to get this thing up in the air today. While we are looking at this, let's check out the chat and see if anyone's here. We've got Dan in the chat. Hello there, Dan. Welcome, welcome. Technically, the payload bay door opened completely on Ship 36 during their test fire explosion. That is true. They did indeed. That it opened up. It took some brute force to open it, but it opened. That flap on Flight 4 was barely hanging on at the end. Yeah, it was. And that was something, the flaps on Flight 4, I was like absolutely shocked about because you could see pretty much like 80% of the material was eaten away by the heat on reentry. And yet the flaps were still operating. Like, you could see the flaps actively moving and doing what they're supposed to do. And they've got the telemetry displayed at the bottom of the stream, and you can see that Starship was maintaining the proper orientation. It wasn't like going out of control or spinning or anything. So even though all of that material had been eaten away from the flaps, somehow those flaps were still able to do their job and keep Starship under control. I do think that because that material was eaten away, it wasn't able to slow itself down as much as it was supposed to, or like, basically what I'm saying is I think it traveled further than what it was supposed to because there wasn't as much air resistance on it, and so it traveled further before it got down to the ocean. Because I'm pretty sure there was something with the investigation after Flight 4 that showed that it went outside of the restriction zones that they had placed in the Indian Ocean. And so, while the flaps were effective and kept Starship under control, it still went a little bit further than what it was supposed to. It wasn't on perfectly pinpoint accuracy with the location it was supposed to touch down at. But you guys just kind of watching this stream silently. I'm not sure what they're saying. We can listen in here. That was my spiel for the Flight 10, just telling you guys about the objectives for today. I guess I can talk a little bit more about Booster 16. Booster 16 is expected to do something very similar to what the Booster 14 did on the last flight, on Flight 9. Booster 14 was the first booster to fly for the second time. So that was the first ever Super Heavy booster to be reused on a flight, which is really cool to see. But they had other plans for Booster 14 rather than bringing it back home and catching it for a second time and maybe like preserving it or something and keeping it forever. They decided to use it for a much more brutal test than what it was put through on its first ever flight, and they brought it in hot. But basically what they're doing with both Booster 14, what they did on Flight 9, and what they're going to be doing with Booster 16 on what will hopefully be today's flight, they're bringing it in at a much sharper angle of attack, basically attempting to use the booster as a lifting body to see how far they can get the booster to aerodynamically guide itself back to the launch site, because the further it is able to aerodynamically control itself and bring itself back home, the less fuel they have to use to push it back home. So any fuel that the booster's not using will be fuel that they can push a larger payload up in orbit with. And so the objective for Booster 16 today will be, after hot staging, after stage separation, it will do its boost back, but then they are just going to like flip this thing. I'm assuming it's almost going to be like laying on its back. There are some shots of like the Falcon 9 booster coming back to Florida, the Florida return to landing launch site, where the Falcon 9 booster does its boost back, comes back to Florida, that on the coastal landing pad rather than landing on the drone ship. And so there's some footage where it almost looks like those Falcon 9 boosters are laying like flat on their back, flying themselves back in towards the coast. And so I think that's what they're doing here with Booster 16, is just really testing those aerodynamic profiles on the vehicle to see what they can do with it. At what point do they stress it too much and the vehicle breaks? What are the limits of this design that they have? Because if they can figure out the limits on the current version of the Super Heavy booster, they can make improvements to it in the future to maybe push the envelopes a little bit further on future flights. And if my knowledge serves me correct, this will be the last flight of Super Heavy version 2. They're going to be moving on to Super Heavy V3 on the next flight, which is going to have a plethora of upgrades. First flight with Raptor 3 engines on the booster. They're going to be moving down to 3 grid fins instead of 4, and the hot stage ring is also going to be integrated into the booster itself rather than being a piece that has to separate after stage separation like it's been doing on the past 9 flights. Excuse me. So basically what they're doing now, since they're already planning on moving on to the next generation of booster, and they got all these extra boosters left over that they were constructing, so why not use them as just straight up like throwaway test objects to push their envelopes and see what the booster can do and how they can improve the V3 booster in the future. And there's some things I am worried about with the upgrades, because obviously Starship V2 came into the picture, and Starship V2 has had a lot of issues since they started it. You kind of expect, like, when they release a new version of something, it works better than the previous one, and it just, like, it was kind of the complete opposite. It was like they almost went back to, like, stage 1, step 1 in the whole process of testing the vehicle and certifying that it works. And so I'm hoping that we do not encounter anything like that with Super Heavy V3. I hope that we can continue the kind of reliability that Super Heavy has right now, because they've gotten very good so far with the Super Heavy booster. All 33 engines light up. They go the entire burn time. You're not losing any engines during flight like they did on maybe like the first 2 or 3 flights on the first 3 flights of Starship with the V1 Starship. They've gotten very good at not losing engines. The booster is able to do its flip and come back to the launch site without losing engines, and then all the engines are lighting up for the landing burn. Like it's a very reliable vehicle. They even demonstrated already that they could take what they have right now, the V2 version of Super Heavy that's on the pad right now. They could keep that design, and they've proven that they can reuse it. So it's already in a very good state as it is, and so I'm hoping that when V3 comes out, there's not new issues that suddenly appear that will set back the Starship program again, kind of like Starship V2 seems to have done. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but it's just it's sad to see so much progress within 6 flights, and then your 7th flight, all of a sudden we're right back to square one. At least it feels that way. So we're almost 2 minutes out here. Well, we're under 2 minutes out, I should say, from this thing launching. I have not been listening to anything, so I have no idea if they're planning on doing a hold or if the weather is going to be acting up or what they are planning here. So let's listen in and see what is about to happen.
Us a lot more flexibility, so super useful to be able to have that. But again, not currently tracking any issues, so hopefully we'll be good to launch today.
All right, coming up on 90 seconds, we've got a pretty good crowd gathering with us right outside Star Factory here at Starbase. Looks like we're getting a quick TVC, that wiggle check.
This is my favorite view of the rocket.
Right under the launch mount. All right, so we've got crowds gathered out at Hawthorne, crowds gathered here at Starbase.
Super fun to see people getting to watch out on the front lawn now.
1 minute to go to launch.
All right, T-minus 1 minute. Here we go. They're saying that everything is green. Weather is green, it sounds like.
All right, so again, our hold point comes up at T-minus 40. Not tracking any reason to stop there, so we should see us go right through that. All right.
All right, they're past
through T-minus 40.
They're past the T-minus 40.
Counting down. We're going to let our flight director, Maciek Batura, take us the rest of the way.
It looks like everything is working.
The 10th liftoff of Starship.
Let's see what happens here. We got clear skies. Weather's good. Let's see what happens here.
T-minus 15.
T-minus 15 seconds. This is it, everyone.
T-minus 10. 9.
I hope I'm not jinxing us.
7.
6,
6,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
1.
Let's get this thing in the air. Come on. Come on.
We have liftoff.
All right, we got liftoff, everyone. Here we go. This is it. We are finally in the air. Starship Flight 10 is going. Beautiful views of Starship.
Booster chamber pressure nominal.
We have all 33 engines lit.
All right, we're a little over 40 seconds into flight. 33 out of
Booster and
33
ship,
Raptor
avionics,
engines.
power and telemetry nominal.
Everything's nominal, all 33 engines.
Getting good call outs, healthy systems.
We're working so
on
far.
the booster as it starts to pitch over the Gulf.
There's Max Q.
All right, we're a little over 1 minute into flight, about to pass through Max Q.
Look at that vapor trail being formed around it, man.
All right, so we are through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, max stress on the vehicle as it continues to fly.
Our next major event is going to be hot staging, which is happening in just over 90 seconds from now. To get ready, the booster will shut down all but 3 of its Raptor engines. The clamps holding the 2 stages together will release, and the Starship second stage ignites its engines. The ship then separates from the Super Heavy booster and heads to space.
Oh, we've lost an engine.
At the same time, the 3 engines still firing on Super Heavy will flip the booster around. 10 more engines will ignite for the boost back burn, putting the first stage on the path for splashdown in the Gulf.
I'm not sure what's going on
As we
here. It
mentioned
looks like the
earlier, hot
flaps.
stage will be
You can
jettisoned
see the
for this
camera
flight,
kind of
and that
wiggle.
should
I don't know
occur
if that's
just
the
after
camera
boost
itself
back
is
burn.
loose or if the flaps
So
are kind
we're
of
about to
wiggling
shut
on
down the
ascent
first
here.
stage and perform hot staging. So let's just watch and listen.
We're coming up on stage separation now. You can see the vehicle rolling. I'm hoping this all... There's a lot of stuff here that doesn't feel normal. I feel like I don't recognize like the rolls and stuff happening here, so I'm hoping this is normal. Because it's just something I don't recognize. Alright, here comes stage separation. You got engine cool, or engine chill happening there in the skirt of the Starship.
All right, seeing the engine start to throttle down.
Engine's throttling down. Here we go, stage separation.
Miko.
Main engine cut off, down to 3 Raptor engines on the booster. We're going to see engine
Should be
light
good.
up. Engine ignition. Oh, there it goes.
Boost back burn startup. Stage separation.
All right, we got all 6 engines on ship 10. Boost spec burn is up. That one engine that went out before is still out.
Stage
So
separation
that
confirmed.
engine's
We've got
probably not
6
coming
engines
back.
running on ship. Booster is doing its boost back burn, continuing now towards its splashdown site in the Gulf.
Ship
We are
Raptor
seeing
chamber
all 6
pressure is
Raptors
nominal.
lit up on ship.
Man, it is crazy how nervous I am about this. Just knowing what has happened here on the past 3 flights, just really hoping that
You heard them
this thing
report
can
ship chamber
work.
pressure is nominal, so that chamber pressure, just that expected thrust level in those Raptor engines on the ship. 3 vacuum optimized,
Ship
3 sea
avionics,
level,
power and
all
telemetry
looking
nominal.
good.
There's a view of the booster. Oh, there we go. View inside the engine skirt on Starship.
There's a view into the business end from the ship.
Boost back burn shutdown.
All right, boost spec burn shut down. Super Heavy is on its way back to the Gulf. Heading back to the coast.
All right, so at this point, we finished our boost back burn, so that was shut down. So that's the first of the 2 burns after a launch that the booster is going to do today. So now it's headed towards the Gulf. It's not going to be quite as an aggressive of a flight down. We relaxed that angle of attack a little bit, but we are then going to be looking for it to do its engine tests for the landing burn, and those are going to be a little unique this time.
Yeah, typically we start with all 13 inner engines lit for that landing burn and bring that down to just the center 3. But one of our test objectives for today is to simulate what an engine out situation would look like. So we're going to be intentionally turning off one of those center 3 and instead lighting one of the engines from the middle 10 ring.
Yeah, we did see one of those engines in the middle ring shut down.
There goes
during
the hot
initial
staging
ascent.
ring
Oh,
and the
looks
booster
like
right
we
there.
have hot stage jettison. You can see it floating away there.
Look
to
at
the
this
left
thing
of the booster.
screaming back in. You can already tell how fast it's coming back into
Yeah,
the
we did see
atmosphere.
one of those middle engines shut down during the ascent. Again, we are resilient to engine out on Super
Starship
Heavy.
flying
That's why
nominal
we're able to get through
trajectory.
our
We're about to
ascent.
see this thing start glowing at the base.
Starship flying on the expected path. There's still a chance that engine could be back in the mix for the very start of the landing burn, so we'll see if we light up all 13. But we've even done a landing burn at the tower with an engine out, so very resilient. We'll see how it does on its way down to the Gulf, though.
Come on, Super Heavy. Obviously, we're not seeing a catch today, but you still never want to see a failure during these flights. You want to just see it work like it's been working. So I'm hoping Super Heavy will continue to prove how.
That's always rad. You can see
look at the base of that glowing.
You can see the boost plume itself in the background as it was coming in.
Hoping to continue seeing Super Heavy
be
reliable like it has been.
Ship Raptor chamber pressure is nominal.
Oh, getting a little wiggly there. You see that, guys? Or maybe that was the camera. I don't know. That looked like the booster just kind of wiggled a little bit.
Landing burn startup.
All right, there's our landing burn startup.
Looks like we got 12
and there's our
13.
Raptors.
Down to 3, including one of the middle ring.
All right, their test worked here. Look at that.
Down to 2.
Nice.
Nice little hover. And landing burn shutdown. And into the Gulf, here we come. And the booster has splashed down.
And the booster's gone.
Incredible.
Rest in peace.
Today.
Rest in peace, Booster 16.
Meanwhile, back in space.
Everything.
7 minutes into today's flight, ship continuing its ascent burn.
Everything
this
looks decent.
About
We're looking good right now.
Flight. That ship engine cutoff is slated for 8 minutes
now,
and 57 seconds.
I
we are going to see those 3 RVAC, the Raptor vacuum engines. Those are the bigger circles in that little indicator.
I don't
at the
want
right
to
screen. Those will shut down
jinx us because the last time I watched a Starship stream like this and I was like, everything's looking good. All of a sudden it started spinning out of control. So I'm hoping we don't see that happen here. It looks like everything is good though. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, these views are looking great. Once again, thanks to Starlink for getting us these views. It's just incredible.
I want to keep my fingers crossed and hope this thing keeps working the way it's supposed to.
And we just heard the sound from Booster.
It's like we just got a late boom from the booster.
You could hear the explosion because booster landing offshore. Obviously, it takes a minute for the sound to get back to the coast. So they just got the sound of the explosion from the booster.
Coming up here just shortly. And as we mentioned, today's flight test is not an orbital flight, but rather one that demonstrates Starship's orbital capability.
Starship from terminal guidance.
All right, entering the final phase of this burn. Under 30 seconds to go.
Under 30 seconds until ship engine cutoff.
All right, shut down the vacuum engines.
There goes the vacuums. And then you're going to shut down those center engines.
Ship engine cutoff.
And there is engine cutoff.
Center 3, successful ship engine cutoff.
All right. You do your thing now. You keep going, buddy. You got this.
Seco, baby. There we go. That's what we want.
Nominal orbit insertion.
All right, we just heard the call out for nominal orbital insertion.
All right. Here we go.
All right, so ship is in
Here goes the flaps doing some flap
there
things.
We're seeing the flaps starting to move into a stowed position. That's why it looks like your camera's moving.
Yeah, exciting to see Starship safely in space.
Wow,
and
those
super pumped to see all the
I didn't
teams
realize
hard work
how
in action here today.
those
And of
flaps
course, as
literally like can
guaranteed,
tuck
it's
away
been
like
an
that.
exciting day so far. We successfully lifted off right on time at 6:30 p.m. Central Time.
That is impressive.
Thankfully, our weather was looking good today.
Looks
Yeah,
like the
and
base of that
booster,
flap right there
we
got
had
very
a soft
toasty.
splashdown in the
Look,
Gulf.
the hot
so
gases from the
ship
skirt and the
continues on.
engines
Yeah, ship
toasted
able to
the
complete
end of
its
that flap
ascent
right there.
burn all the way in. You can see some of the shadows start to creep as it's going to be eventually flying into an orbital nighttime. So we'll see some daylight start to go away. But ship is in orbit, completed its burn, and I mean that's just the beginning. Now we've got a whole bunch more to go. So we've got some exciting demonstrations
Ship
planned
FTS is
while
saved.
we're on orbit. That right there, we just saved the FTS, the flight termination system. That's that automatic flight safety system we have on the vehicle. So that is now turned off while ship starts its coast period. We are coming up, our next milestone is going to be the deployment of those Starlink simulators. We've got some payload inside of Starship that we're hoping to deploy into space for the very first time. That deploy is supposed to start at about 18 minutes and 27 seconds into the flight, so just about 7 minutes from now. That deploy will take place over a couple of minutes. It'll go about one satellite a minute, so we'll be spread out over that. It might get a little dark, but we've got a couple of views that we can show you to see that deploy in action. After that, we're also looking to do a relight of a single Raptor engine while we are in space. We've done this once before. This is not necessary to deorbit as we are in a suborbital trajectory, but this is essentially a chance to test out what we need to be able to do a deorbit burn. So we'll be doing that a little bit later in the flight, about 30
Look at all that ice breaking off the ship.
And then we get into reentry. We're looking to get that light show and, more importantly, get that really critical data about the ship's heat shield.
Yeah, exactly. At about T plus 45 minutes, we'll be heading for reentry. Again, running those experiments with the tiles. We're going to be doing missing tiles, metallic tiles, and also intentionally loading those vehicles' flaps. Hopefully, we'll also see a splashdown in the Indian Ocean today.
Yeah, we were able to get to a reentry last time, but we didn't have full attitude control, so we weren't able to go in, heat shield first the way we're designed to. So we ended up losing contact with the ship before we could make it all the way through. So you still get data, but you're not really getting the data that we want to make sure we're kind of stress testing the vehicle. As Amanda just said, we removed a bunch of tiles, and we do this in some intentionally scary places on the vehicle because we're really looking, are there spots that were vulnerable to this? Before we ever start moving towards, putting ship into a full orbital mission to then do reentries a little bit later on. So really, really critical to get that data, really looking forward to a controlled reentry.
Yeah, for sure. As we always say, our main payload is data, but today we also have some actual payload on board, and those simulators that Starship will be deploying, we'll see coming up here in just a few minutes. These are dummy satellites that are about the same size as our V3 Starlinks. We have 8 in the Starship PEZ dispenser and expect to deploy at a rate of about 1 per minute, as Dan mentioned earlier. Starlink is critical in all of our flights on Starship to get our main payload data, as we always say. And in fact, it's Starlink that's currently providing these views you see as Starship cruises a couple hundred kilometers above our home planet and provides real-time telemetry through every phase of flight.
Yeah, we took a peek inside of the Starship payload bay there for a second. So there's 8 of them. They kind of look just big steel plates, essentially. They're roughly the same size as those V3 satellites. When we do get that view inside of the payload bay, the payload door will kind of be on your right, and we'll start to see them go out like a PEZ dispenser.
There's our view of the PEZ dispenser right there.
Inside. So those right down there in the center, they're kind of 2 stacks.
I'm gonna mute this. We're done. We're done listening. We're gonna talk for a little bit. We're not gonna sit in awkward silence. So that's a view of the PEZ dispenser right there with those satellite simulators on board. You can see they are very bare bones. There's like no electronics or anything on. They're literally just the right size to fit inside the Pez dispenser, and they're probably a similar weight to the actual satellites as well, so they can demonstrate the deployment of those satellites. Now, what they were saying earlier is that these satellites are going to deploy about one every single minute, so give it time to bring them down to the payload bay door, line it up with the payload bay door, shoot one out, let it get some spacing away from the ship, and then they'll deploy the next one, so that way they aren't causing any hazards for collision or anything like that after they're deployed. Keeping everything well spaced out from each other will ensure success on this. Looking over at the chat here, I can see we have a Dougal Dog here in the stream. He says, "Thanks for streaming the launch. Hope it goes well today." Thank you very much. Or, well, I shouldn't be saying thank. I should be saying thank you for watching. I'm happy to stream this. It's been unfortunate since SpaceX has moved all of their streams away from YouTube and onto Twitter exclusively, or I'm sorry, X. People that maybe don't have an account on there can't watch them anymore like they used to be. So I like to be able to just bring the feed to YouTube. That way people can still see it and not miss out on anything, because Starship's a very exciting thing to be able to watch. Dan's saying ship is rolling. That's what I was wondering earlier. It may have been completely nominal, because obviously everything is still going to plan. I just don't remember it moving the way it did right before state separation, because it looks like it was rolling and pitching a lot more than what it had done on past flights. So that may have been by design. Maybe they were doing something different for this flight that they didn't tell us about, but it just looked different to me. I don't recall seeing it on past flights, but everything so far is going well. The ship is maintaining its orientation properly. You've got that view inside of the payload bay, and it's actually pretty neat because it seems like these views we're getting are a lot more reliable than what they have been in the past, because I recall past flights, like viewing inside the payload bay, they were very choppy. You weren't able to see much inside of the payload bay because the camera kept cutting in and out, but we're getting like a seamless video right here just inside the payload bay right there. So hopefully we will get to see that door open up, which actually I think I literally just watched it open up right as I said that. I just watched that door open up because I can see black right where that door is at, the blackness of space right there. So that door I think just successfully opened. So hopefully we will get to start seeing these things get spit out of the payload bay here in a second. I don't see anything listed on their little graphic at the bottom of the screen here showing that showing like when the payload is going to be deployed. Like usually there's like payload deploy that's on their little graphic at the bottom of the screen to indicate when it's happening, but since they got the door open, they might just start spitting these things out. That's a really cool view too, like right behind the satellites. You're going to just see the satellite kind of push out and go through the door. So this is exciting. The door is open. I hope we can start seeing these satellites get spit out of the Pez dispenser. There goes our camera feeds. I kind of jinxed it right there, right as I was saying that it wasn't going to cut out. It's cut out on us. So, but things are looking good so far. I'm not listening to the stream, so I don't know if they're talking about payload, like when the first payload is going to be deployed or not. I'm just watching it here because you can clearly see the door opened up. So I'm just watching here to see when these things start sliding out of the Pez dispenser. Let's turn on some sound here and see what they're saying. Oh, there goes our first one. Our first one's sliding out there.
There we go.
All right. There's our first of 8 Starlink simulator satellites deploying, I think. Oh no, it looks like it's stuck. Oh, never mind. It's out. All right. Oh, I see. So the way this mechanism is working, it pushes the satellite out, and then
I've been waiting way too long to do that.
it,
There we go.
it stops and then will retract itself. So it's literally acting like a Pez mechanism that pushes the satellite out. So it's not the satellite
There
getting
goes
stuck.
another one.
There it goes. Look at it. Oh my goodness, that is so cool. We've got payload deploy. It is successful, everyone. You can see the little chains on the mechanism
Super exciting
working.
moment as you can hear the energy in both Hawthorne and Starbase. Everyone's super excited for finally getting to deploy some of those simulated satellites.
Oh, there goes the Pez dispenser. It's
System moving
lowering down. It
Next
drops
row.
down to get the
There we
next row
go.
lined up with the door.
As we said, we're going to do about one every minute or so. And this is just kind of a dress rehearsal for when we're going to be deploying the V3 satellites. And these are just a massive, massive increase to Starlink's capability. Each one of them has it's 60 terabits per second of capacity that's going to get added to the network per launch. That's 20 times more than what we're adding with every single Falcon 9 launch today, which
There goes another one.
step increase in capability.
It's continuing to work. This is awesome. We are finally seeing payload deploy on this thing.
All right, so as we said, we've got 8 total that we're going to go through today. It's about a minute for each one, but looking good on payload.
There goes another one. That's number 4. We got 4 more to go. Watch it get pushed out the door from the up high view. Wow. Off they go. This makes me excited for when there's actual real Starlink satellites on board this thing, watching them get deployed. Because on an actual flight of this, I believe they said they could cram like 200 of the Starlink V3 satellites into the payload bay. I could be wrong. That number sounds familiar though, like 200. So like they're going to stack these things like up. Like there's going to be a ton of these satellites on board the ship. So it just makes me excited to see.
Halfway through.
Makes me
We
excited to
actually
see
start
actual
launching the
Starlinks
V3
get
Starlinks
deployed from this.
On Starship, we're going to be flying about 60 each time, so it'll be about an hour to get through a full stack. But again, it's just
Oh, they're going to be flying 60. Okay.
increase.
My number was wrong. I don't know where I got the
It's gonna
200 value from.
Gigabit upload download.
Do not know where I got the
for
200
people
number from, but
Starlink, anywhere on the
60
planet. And for
Starlink
us,
satellites for every single
Starlink
flight.
is just a tremendous part of just the Starship flight test program.
Yeah, absolutely. Always getting us that data, and yeah, the amazing views we have on the vehicle today.
Yeah, views brought to you by Starlink of us deploying Starlink simulators before we deploy actual Starlinks.
There goes another one.
How deep does it go? All right, another one firing out.
That was number 6. 2 more simulators to go. And then we should see that payload bay door close up after those last 2 are out of the payload bay. Here comes those last 2.
Pez looking smooth today.
Keep doing your thing. Here comes the last 2. That tray is empty. And out there goes number 1.
All right, looks like we've got 1 left.
There's
Almost
number
there.
7. Last but certainly not least, here comes the last Starlink simulator on board this. There it goes.
Yeah, there you go. 1 remaining, so 7 of the 8 have been deployed. 1 more to go. And then we will have completed
Here
our
it
first
goes.
ever payload deploy operation. Just a reminder, we're on a suborbital trajectory. These satellites on that exact same suborbital trajectory, they're going to burn up entirely and are on that same trajectory towards the Indian Ocean. So the last one has been deployed. Starlink simulator payload complete. Heck yeah, everybody.
Loving the energy from Starbase and Hawthorne.
There goes. All 8 satellites are successfully out of the payload bay.
There, yeah, now it's empty. Looking a little lonely.
That is
but
objective number 1.
Successfully
We have
deployed
passed.
all
We
the
are
simulator
through
satellites.
objective number
really,
1, which
really
is get
cool
the
to
payload
see
out of the payload
them
bay.
all out there. Again, people that have followed know Starlink's really critical for the Starship program, in addition to, getting all those views back from the cameras on Starship, which this is an external view. As I said, it's dark outside right now. The lights are off. So it's going to be hard to make stuff out. But in a little while, the sun's going to start coming up as we get to reentry, which is going to be really critical. We use Starlink for Starship data. Cameras also use it on the cameras that we use to bring you views of these launches and also, hopefully, of the reentry and splashdown. We'll see what we get from the Indian Ocean today. And that's just kind of how it all comes together. Like, we're using Starlink on the planet, off the planet. With Starship, we actually get a pretty insane, if you're in the space industry, bandwidth to space is usually pretty minimal. We get about 120 megabits per second. That's split between our high-definition video and real-time telemetry. We get that every phase of flight, including reentry. So it's not just giving us views of reentry, but we're getting all of that engineering data in real time through phases that it used to be impossible to get that in real time. So just really incredible.
Yeah, Starlink definitely affords us all this capability. And reminder, it's the world's largest satellite constellation operating in low Earth orbit to deliver high-speed, low-latency broadband internet. This provides internet access to people all around the world, many of whom had never had connectivity before. Today, Starlink serves more than 150 countries, territories, and other markets with over 6 million active customers and counting. To meet the growing global demand for high-speed internet, SpaceX expanded its factory in Bastrop, Texas, and also introduced Starlink Mini, as well as an upgraded version of the Starlink standard kit.
All right, now with payload deploy complete, Starship is now going to close its payload bay door and continue to coast towards Earth, around Earth, towards the Indian Ocean. Sorry, I'm really excited today. We are in space, people. Still a lot of major events to come, though. We are looking to relight one of those Raptor engines at about 37 minutes, 33 seconds into the flight, followed by atmospheric entry, hell of a light show, and splashdown. So we're going to go on a quick break, take a quick coast, sit back, enjoy the views. A little bit dark now, but they'll get better soon. Couple of space jams. We'll be back in just a few minutes for that Raptor relight and then re-entry. See you soon.
And we will mute there because we don't want to have any type of copyright. I don't know if, because this Test Shot Starfish is the artist that does all the songs. Well, he doesn't. I don't think he makes the songs for SpaceX, but he is the artist of the songs that SpaceX uses in all their broadcast. Don't want to take any chances with copyright here, but looking at these views, it looks like the payload bay door has closed successfully. So that is a very good sign that that entire mechanism, the PEZ dispenser, the payload bay door, everything is working as it should. Finally, at long last, we've got something here. This is what I was looking forward to today, was seeing these things work. So they're saying about the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to see ship do its flip. It's going to point itself in the opposite direction it's pointing right now to simulate that deorbit burn. There will be a singular center Raptor engine that will light up on this in the skirt of the ship to demonstrate that they can do a deorbit burn with Starship. And then after that deorbit burn, it's going to flip itself back into that belly first orientation to prepare itself for re-entry. Let's look at some of the telemetry here. I'm trying to figure out like where this thing's at on its coast phase. It looks like it's holding pretty steady at 183 kilometers. I was trying to see if it was still... Oh, nope, we are going down. So we are past our apogee, and Starship is beginning a slow descent back down towards the Earth. I apologize. You guys can hear the dogs barking in the background. But we're going. Like, this thing, so far so good. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do here. We're maintaining orientation. The ship has not started spiraling out of control. So man, it's really refreshing to see something working here. So I was really nervous there at the beginning, but I'm starting to get some optimism seeing that payload bay work the way it was supposed to. Full payload deploy. All 8 satellites got chucked out. There were a couple times watching the mechanism. Obviously, I don't think we've never seen the mechanism work. And so there was a couple times where, obviously not being familiar with it, it's like, did it just get stuck? Or are we not going to see the other satellites get pushed out? What's going to happen here? So it all worked the way it's supposed to, which is very good. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen next year as we approach the Raptor relight to simulate that deorbit burn. While we are waiting, though, let us check out the chat again. Dougal Dog says, Starlink provided connectivity for the final experiment in Antarctica. Indeed, it did. They were using, I'm pretty sure it was a Starlink mini kit that they were using down there. And they were literally able to live stream in one of the most remote places on Earth, which was really awesome to see. They did have an outage, unfortunately. I think there was a brief time where their internet went out and it wasn't working, which cut off their live stream because they were trying to live stream for the full 24 hours, but something happened with the Starlink's internet that prevented them from live streaming for the full 24 hours, which obviously sent everybody into a well, I should say everybody. It sent all the flat earthers into mass panic and, well, I don't even think they were panicking. It's just them shouting like, look, it's proof it's fake. They weren't able to live stream for 24 hours straight. That must mean they're hiding something from us. So that was unfortunate that Starlink did that to them at that specific time. But yes, Starlink is such a reliable internet service. I own a Starlink mini kit myself. That's what I used to live stream the Starship Flight 9 down to Starbase back in May. And that was able to power that entire stream. It has extremely low power output. I think it draws maybe like 20 watts? I can't remember the unit of measure for the power output. I'm pretty sure it was watts. But very low power drain. And it just worked. I will say, I didn't take the time when I turned on the Starlink Mini when I was live streaming. When I was live streaming for Flight 9, I didn't take the time to properly align the satellite, or to align the dish with the satellites. So I think my speeds were slower than what they should have been at that time. So that's something I will make sure I do next time, make sure I've got everything properly aligned, because there were times when I went back and watched the replay of the stream, there were times where it got pretty choppy throughout. And so if I go back down to Starbase, or if I go anywhere else to live stream a rocket launch in person, I definitely want to make sure that our views stay as crisp and clear as these views are on Starship right now. Because they're running, the way he mentioned 120 megabits down from the ship, which I'm pretty sure that's the exact same speed that the Starlink minis run at. So I'm pretty sure they are literally just running Starlink mini dishes on Starship and getting that data to be broadcast back down to Starbase that they're in their mission control center. So really neat to see kind of the technology they're selling to the consumers. They're also using, probably not the exact thing, but they're using a form of it on Starship as well to get these like literally uninterrupted video feeds down. SpaceX with Starlink has been able to probably bring us the highest resolution video feeds that we have ever seen in a broadcast for a rocket launch. Obviously, a lot of launch providers will have like replays that they'll post after the launch when they get like the high definition video back down from the rocket. But during the actual live stream itself, it's so choppy that you can barely ever see anything. So SpaceX has definitely made a breakthrough in terms of being able to bring us these high definition feeds uninterrupted with Starlink. I'm really impressed by it. But yeah, continuing my Starlink glaze, I'm a very big fan of Starlink. I love my mini dish. I have thought about upgrading to the larger standard dish for the faster speeds, but I don't think I need it quite yet. I don't have the need for it. So we're going to continue using Mini and see what we can do with it in the future on our live stream, see if we can get the speeds to work the way they're supposed to, and get everything aligned properly, So that's kind of where I'm at right now, but I'm looking forward to Starlink V3 once they actually start getting to do operational flights with Starship and putting payloads into orbit. Because as they were saying earlier, Starlink V3 is going to bring, I want to say he said like 6 petabytes or 60. There was a 6 in there. But it wasn't like gigabytes. It was larger. It was like a terabyte or petabyte, something like that. It was up there. Very, very big number. Lots of zeros on the end of that. Starlink V3 is going to even further change the game with the Starlink connectivity on the ground. We're going to get even crazier speeds from these satellites because they're increasing the bandwidth, increasing how many active users can connect to a satellite at once, just basically expanding the envelope of Starlink even further than what it is right now. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Starlink Mini starts getting faster speeds. There have been times I've seen people report that they get speeds of like over 200 megabytes a second, megabits, not megabytes, 200 megabits a second down on Starlink Mini at times. SpaceX guarantees 120 megabits as long as the dish is aligned properly, which I have been able to get those speeds myself. Even driving down the highway with the mini dish attached to my vehicle, I'm getting like 80 megabits down on the highway driving. So it is just absolutely insane what Starlink can do already. So I'm really looking forward to V3 because I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to see even faster speeds get cranked out of these things, which is just going to be insane for satellite internet because I have used other forms of satellite internet before. You have things such as like HughesNet. Those are like common satellite internet providers, but those satellite internets, the satellite internet, like the satellites for that, are chucked way out into a geostationary orbit, which is super far away from Earth. So when you have clear days, it works pretty well. You get okay, decent speeds. But as soon as you get cloud cover or type of rainstorm or anything, you lose like all connectivity. Your internet just dies. And it was the same thing for satellite television. Satellite TV, they chucked those satellites out into the same spot with the internet satellites, and you lose your satellite TV when the cloud cover hits and stuff. So Starlink being in low Earth orbit, much closer, and having the ability, and my camera just shut off. I just watched. Starlink being much lower, closer to the Earth, and having these faster speeds and like higher bandwidth capabilities is much more reliable even during times where it's raining or cloud cover and stuff. I do a little bit of I guess adrenaline chasing, you could say, on the side. I've gone storm chasing with Starlink Mini mounted to the vehicle, and I did not lose connectivity until I hit a oh, engine relight's happening. Thank you, Dan, for pointing that out to me. Let's turn this back on here because I was not paying attention. I was raving about how much I love Starlink.
That's going to be really critical for when we're doing deorbit burns. Like as you're going through, which if you don't have one of these, my God, they're so much fun. But like you're able to actually like light. Oh, Dan, turn it on. Light that engine. Not set my co-host on fire. And that's what we'll eventually do to, break out of orbit, come back down to Earth. So really cool to see one of those engines light back up again in space. It was our last in-space thing.
Oh,
Very
I missed
excited.
it.
We're
The
gonna
engine
be
lit up and I
heading
missed it.
back,
I was not paying
for
attention at
reentry in
all.
about 45 minutes, so
I was
we're gonna
not
take
paying
a quick
attention.
break
I was
and we
talking
will
so much
see you
about
soon.
Starlink and I missed that relight. Okay, we're rewinding this. I want to watch it. All right, here we go. I just want to rewatch it because I wasn't paying attention.
Relight demo startup. And shutdown.
Oh, there it goes. Yep. That is a purty burn right there.
All right, looks like we confirmed the relight of one of those
That was a
Center Raptor engines. Second time we've done that. Super exciting.
Nominal
Huge
order
congrats
insertion.
to the team on this milestone. Very exciting to see.
That was a cool light show. Yeah, I get to do a mini version here. So again, that's going to be really critical for when we're doing deorbit burns. Like as you're going through, which if you don't have one of these, my God, they're so much fun. But like you're able to actually like light. Oh, Dan turned it on. Light that engine. Not set my co-host on fire, and that's what we'll eventually do to break out of orbit.
I gotta get me
come
one
back
of those.
down
I need
to
a
Earth.
star.
So really cool to see one of those.
I need a
engines
Starship
back up
lighter.
again, in space.
We're
This
having
is our last in space.
copyrighted music. Let's
Very
not do that.
exciting. We're going to be heading back
Let's mute
for
that stream.
re-entry at about T plus 45 minutes. So we're going to take another quick break, and we will see you soon.
All right. So there was that. We got to see the engine relight. I literally was not paying any form of attention at all. I was looking at the YouTube chat. Completely missed the engine relight on my end. In conclusion, Starlink good. I highly recommend it. The prices have started to come down on it. I'm not obviously sponsored by Starlink. I am not big enough to be sponsored by anybody at the moment, but I highly recommend it if you guys want a reliable internet that you can take literally anywhere. The roaming plan is awesome because you can literally attach the dish to the roof of your car and drive down the road and still get internet connection. Even in cell phone dead zones, places where your cell phones don't work at all, you can still get Starlink internet. So recommend it if you guys want reliable internet anywhere you go. With that being said, there was the engine relight. Very cool to see that. It happened very quickly. Obviously, they're not doing a full deorbit burn, so they didn't need to light it up for a long time to slow the ship down. But it was just neat to see that thing fire up and shut down real fast. It worked. The ship didn't blow up. Looking at it here, I can see that the ship's orientation is getting back into the correct way it needs to be. So we still have proper control over Starship. It's not spiraling or anything. It's getting into that belly first position, so it can just literally it's going to smack itself right into the atmosphere to begin slowing itself down. The whole design for Starship is basically intended to use as much surface area on the belly of the ship to essentially act as a brake. So the entire heat shield, you see the silver side and the black side. The reason it's two different colors because that black side is the heat shield for Starship. It's very similar to the space shuttle. If you guys have seen the space shuttle reenter, the space shuttle had that entire belly, that black belly of heat shield tiles. And Starship is following the same kind of design approach for getting it back through the atmosphere and back to the launch site to be reused. And so the whole point here, because Starship doesn't really have it doesn't want to use fuel when it re-enters like Falcon 9 does. You see Falcon 9 do the re-entry burn to slow itself down so it doesn't get too hot on atmospheric re-entry. They don't want to use any fuel on this until they're literally at the last possible moment for the landing of Starship. And so what they're doing is using Starship itself to slow it down. So that heat shield acts essentially as a giant brake pad. I don't think those tiles are going to wear down as much as a brake pad does when you're driving in a car, but there's some wear to them. They're not perfect. They will eventually kind of erode away and they'll have to be replaced in the future, but it's a giant brake pad. It hits the atmosphere. And it looks like we're already maybe starting to get some plasma buildup around the flaps there, if I'm paying attention. Or I am paying attention, but if I'm observing this correctly, it does look like some plasma buildup on the vehicle already. These flaps are starting to do their movements and stuff, so we will see what happens, and we'll see if we can get Starship through re-entry. See if we can get Starship through re-entry without those flaps getting eaten through on re-entry. Looks like we have two heat shield tiles that are broken right there. They kind of detached. No big deal there. But anyways, before I get sidetracked, I have these squirrel moments here, just trying to like keep an eye on what's going on here, because I don't want to miss anything like I just missed that engine relight. But they're using the entire surface area of the belly of Starship to slow this thing down. And then once it is through atmospheric reentry, those flaps are pretty much in full control and will be able to control themselves to orient the ship and kind of glide it back to the launch site and get it right back over the launch site so it can be caught by the same arms that catch the Super Heavy booster. So you guys have seen past flights where Super Heavy comes back down and it gets caught by these giant metal arms attached to the side of the launch tower. They're planning to do the exact same thing with Starship. So I'm looking forward to that in the future. The whole purpose of these tests here, it was originally going to be Flight 7, Flight 8. They were going to push V2 Starship through reentry on Flight 7, and then they were going to push it through reentry one more time on Flight 8 just to make sure that it wasn't a fluke and it's actually working the way it needs to. And then Flight 9 was originally going to be the first ever Starship return to launch site. So they would have pushed this thing a lot further into an orbit than what it is right now, because this flight only pushed itself... What was that? That was insulation. Something just blew up right there. I don't know what that was. That was very concerning. You've definitely got that plasma building up around. You can see stuff kind of dangling at the base there. That's not the flap I want to look at. I want to see the flap on the other side. Can you show me the view on the other side there, buddy? But that plasma is building up around the vehicle. It's definitely starting to re-enter. You can see its altitude very, very quickly starting to drop. It's starting to increase in speed as it comes back through the atmosphere. But I just saw something pop there in the engine bay, and I don't know what that was. It looks like everything is still going to plan, so hopefully it wasn't anything mission critical. But it looked like there was some insulation and stuff that kind of started floating around in the skirt there. So I don't know what that was. There's definitely something dangling at the bottom of that flap there, and that is just completely roasting off. Don't know what it is. There's a lot of stuff. You can see material just kind of like burning off there. But that flap is still holding its orientation. It's doing what it's supposed to. So we'll see what it does. But whatever that was that popped on the inside also seems to have affected the outside there at that aft flap. So we will see how this goes as it gets in, because... Oh. I don't think that was actually anything. That was literally something. It looks like there's a chunk of the skirt that got ripped out of the bottom of the ship right there. So I don't know how that happened, or like if there's a piece of that aft flap missing now, or what happened. Something broke off there. Yeah, you can see stuff popped right there. There's a lot of material missing at the base of that flap right there. I'm glad to see this camera view now. So something definitely broke. That's actually one of the hinges. Because I think there's a hinge at the very bottom base of that flap there. And that flap, the hinge at the bottom of that flap, looks like it just literally broke off. So I'm not sure what caused it. I don't know if it got too hot and just literally like melted away already or what happened there. But the flap has 2 more hinges to work with here, it looks like, based off of the views we got. So I'm hoping this flap will be able to keep pushing through and work the way it needs to. It's not going to roast away like the flaps did on Flight 4. I haven't seen any views from the forward flaps on the top of the ship, so I'm not sure how those things are holding up. But it looks like the flap on the opposite side of the aft is still in one piece, which is good to see as well. So as long as our flaps continue working, everything's going to be good. I don't even remember what I was talking about before I saw that kind of blow up there. It definitely looks like an entire hinge came off the bottom of that flap. So not sure what caused that, but I hope everything continues to work the way it's supposed to. Because obviously, Yeah, you can see, so this flap here, this view you're getting, this view you're seeing, there is a third hinge at the base of that flap right there, and that is not present on the opposite side on the other flap. So that hinge just completely blew itself off somehow, which it's still maintaining orientation. It's got 2 more hinges to work with. Not going to worry about it right now. So you can also see at the very, well, the view's not there anymore. The very bottom of the screen in that previous view, you can see a little piece kind of sticking out from the side. Those were the catch pins there. Oh man, there's like stainless steel just like getting ripped off the base of that flap there. That's not good. I'm hoping that this flap can hold together the way it's supposed to. I really don't know what happened there. But anyways, I was saying, the previous clip that you were seeing at the very bottom of the screen, you could see the little catch pin hanging out from the side of Starship, which will be used as kind of like the load points when Starship comes back in to be caught. Starship's not going to land on its flaps or anything like that, because that will cause unnecessary stress on the aerodynamic control surfaces of the vehicle when they catch it. So instead, there's actual structural points on the side of the ship that the arms will be able to grab hold of when it comes back into land. And those were still holding on to the ship. So as long as that thing that happened with that aft flap is the only thing that happens on this entire flight, that will be good. Now, I will say I am a little concerned here looking at the orientation of the ship and the telemetry data at the bottom of the screen, because it looks like it's kind of like, what's the term, I guess, cockeyed. It's kind of falling off to the side here. It's not perfectly upright like it was earlier, so I don't know if that's just a normal part of the profile here, like the reentry profile, like it's supposed to do that. But it's definitely starting to tilt over to the side, so I'm hoping they are not losing their orientation. Like, I hope the flaps aren't too damaged where they're losing control of the vehicle now. That is really cool view inside the engine bay of the ship. There's a lot of colors in this plasma, which means there is material melting off of Starship once again. I do want to say, though, that they are intentionally pushing this ship. I feel like I heard something in the past on a previous stream saying that they're pushing this specific ship harder than they normally would, just to gather extra flight data on kind of the reentry profile, see like what its limits are. Kind of like what they did with Super Heavy Booster. Just pushing it to its limits to see what the limitations are on the current design of Starship. So I think this thing is coming a little bit faster and hotter than it would in a normal situation, just so they can gather extra data. But hopefully that's not going to cause any major issues where we're not going to be able to see this thing like fully make it through reentry. Because Flight 6 did the exact same thing, where they literally took this thing and like roasted it through the atmosphere. Like, they pushed that thing hard and it still made it through and made it to its flipping land. So I'm hoping we can see the ship do that as well. This flap right here, this view we're seeing, that flap is holding together perfectly. I'm not seeing any burn through at the moment. That hinge, all the hinges are still there, working the way they're supposed to. I am intrigued to know what the belly of the ship looks like, but obviously we're not going to get views of that because any camera they put right in the path of the plasma is going to get roasted off. But it looks like their tiles are holding on the way they're supposed to. It's not looking too toasty on the side of the ship either. Like on Flight 6, you could definitely start seeing like the stainless steel on the back of the ship start to like change colors and start to get like toasty on reentry. There's some burn spots that look like appearing on the camera lens of this angle as well. So Starship is definitely getting hot. It does look like it's off orientation a little bit. The way it's traveling, it looks like it's slightly sideways pushing into the airstream rather than like straight on belly first. So I'm not sure if that's caused by the other flap, what happened with the other flap, and maybe it's starting to lose control. And we also obviously have no idea what the 2 forward flaps look like on the top of the ship because we haven't seen any camera views of those. But it does look like it is slightly off orientation just a little bit, but they're still maintaining control. It's slowing down. This is a beautiful view coming in because this is orbital sunrise right here. So we are coming back into the daylight side of Earth on reentry. And so there's just an explosion of colors everywhere. It is a very, very beautiful view that we're seeing right now of this reentry. Everything's going well. I'm not even listening to the sound. I should turn the sound back on for you guys so we can hear, see if anyone's commentating. Because I'm the one commentating. I'm sure. I don't know if you guys enjoy my commentary or not, but we're not hearing anything from the stream itself. So let's listen in and see what they got to say.
Not from the ship itself. That means we nailed our landing target.
Starship is past peak heating.
All right, we just heard the call out that we're past peak heating, so
And at this point,
things are
again,
looking
the
good so
flaps
far.
are controlling,
Looking
so
good.
this movement you're seeing is that forward flap
So
moving to try
forward flaps are
and
working. I forgot that the
at this
cameras,
point,
the
again,
camera
the
view we're
flaps are
seeing,
telling
those
us
cameras
that
are
this
literally
movement you're
mounted
seeing
to
is
the
that
forward
forward
flaps
flap.
on the ship. So every time the
moving to
camera
try
wiggles like
and
that is the flap itself
maintain
moving
control,
itself and
maintain
changes
attitude
orientation
of
to
the
keep
vehicle
control
as
of the
we're coming
vehicle.
down.
So flaps, forward flaps seem to be working the way they're supposed to, but obviously we don't have those views to know if there's any type of like burn through like there has been in the past. Is that a forward? That's an aft flap, is it not?
Checking in on one of our flaps. We got one of these cameras on all four of the flaps, two in the front, two in the back, giving us really good close-up views. On one of our flaps. We got one of these
It's looking like we're getting
all four of the flaps, two in the front,
obviously
two in
don't
the
have a
back,
camera that can see
giving
the
us
entire heat shield.
really good close-up
give us kind of
views.
the best that we can do. But looking
As
at those
we're-
flaps
we're-
is really, those are just
obviously don't have
super
a camera
critical
that
You
for
can see it
control
starting to
heat
turn
shield.
to the other
That's
side now.
have
It's starting
some
to
ability
flip to the other
to,
side.
But
maneuver
looking at
kind
those
of
flaps is
cross
really,
range.
those are
So
just
as you're coming
super
in,
critical
you
for
can
controlling your
see-
ship.
You can see in that
You have some
that
ability
indicator at the very
to,
bottom right.
No
Yeah,
burn
we're
through
kind
on the
of
flaps
quite
except
good.
for where the
So
hinge
as
broke
you're
off there
coming in,
earlier. So
you can see,
We are
you
maximally
can see
stressing
that
those aft flaps right
that
now.
indicator at the very
it definitely
bottom right,
looks like they
that we've
have
pitched up quite
Oh,
a
it looks
bit.
like
Got a little
So
bit
again,
of
we
burn
are
through.
burned through at the
we are
base there.
maximally
bottom
stressing
part
those
of it.
aft flaps right
I would
now.
expect that to happen because they lost the hinge. If that hinge would have
So
stayed on
looking
there,
good.
I
So
don't
we
think
got
we
a
would have
little
seen any
control
burn
burn
through
through
on the base of that
the
flap
very
there.
bottom part of it. Everything's still looking good. Ship
We should be
maintaining
just about
control.
5 minutes away until we hear that we're transonic.
So far,
just
so
about
good for the most
5
part. It's
minutes away
maintained
until
its
we hear that we're
orientation.
transonic.
Like I said, it looks like it's just kind of like wiggling itself from side to side a little bit. Like it's not able to keep itself perfectly upright. But previous flights, we've seen a lot of issues on V1 Starship where the hot gases on reentry would burn through the flaps right like where the hinges are attached. I'm not seeing any of that now on the new version of the flaps on V2 of Starship, except for obviously where that hinge broke off at the base of the vehicle. But it's got 2 more hinges to operate it, so that flap's going to keep going.
Toasty on the aft skirt of the vehicle as we continue coming in.
That flap's going to keep doing what it's supposed to do because it's got
So
2 more
a little
hinges
bit
to work
toasty
with.
on
But
the
And we are
aft skirt
intentionally stressing the flaps
vehicle
so
as
we
we
can learn
continue
all we
coming
can.
in.
Again, we are intentionally
I
stressing
am glad
the
that when that
flaps
hinge broke
so we
off, though,
can
it
learn
didn't
all we
cause any
can.
other
we're-
major issues because
We're already well past peak heating.
that could have very easily, when that hinge exploded, that could have very easily punctured a
so
hole in
now
the fuel
we're
tank or something
already
and caused a
well
lot more
past peak
problems for
heating.
Starship on
48,
reentry here.
49, counting down to 48 kilometers in altitude. Expecting that transonic to come, so transitioning between
48,
the speed of
49,
sound and
counting down to
subsonic
48
lower than the speed of
kilometers in
sound
altitude.
in
Expecting that
just
transonic
a little under
to
4
come,
minutes
so
from now.
transitioning between
It looks like things are starting
Right
to
now,
cool
we've
off.
got
That
kind of
plasma
a lot
field
of
is starting.
forward
speed of sound
momentum, a lot of forward velocity.
in just a,
And then eventually by the time we hit subsonic,
right now we've got
All right, here
kind
comes
of
Max
a lot of
Hughes. This is gonna be
forward momentum, a lot of forward
maximum
velocity.
aerodynamic
Or,
pressure
uh,
on the
eventually
ship
by
during
the time we
reentry.
try
hit
to
subsonic.
fully deploy those aft flaps and really stress them out.
All right,
So
here we
again,
go.
Oh.
So this is what
this
we've
is
been
meant to
talking
test
about.
the
where we
extremes
are
for the
going to
vehicle.
So they were
try
just pushing
to
those flaps
fully
out
deploy those
all
aft
the way to
flaps
test
and
it.
really stress them out. So again, this is
Wow.
meant to test the extremes for the vehicle.
They're just forcing those flaps. See if we see them like fold in on themselves or anything.
All right.
Wow. Impressive. The
See those flaps swinging out? Again, we are
flaps are
putting
doing what they're
shit to the
supposed
ringer
to.
on this flight in.
See those flaps swinging out.
No
But
flaps
again,
are
we
folding
are
in on themselves or anything
putting
from the
ship through the
pressure, so
ringer
that's
on
good
this
to
flight
see.
end.
You can see tons of speed bleeding off now. It definitely looks like it's getting a lot less toasty. That plasma
Still
field's
maintaining control.
disappearing from around the ship, so it has made it through re-entry. We are majorly slowing down now. A lot of speed bleeding off as we hit these thick
maintaining
parts of the
control.
atmosphere. Just over an hour into flight, and we are about to see landing here in just a couple minutes, it looks like. Yeah, these flap
Right.
that
Flaps
that
earning
flap
their paycheck today.
that flap
Getting
looks
through
flawless.
Kind of that max stressing.
That flap looks flawless. No
Definitely
burn
is
through.
looking
All
good.
the
Earning
hinges
their
held
paycheck
onto it.
today.
We're about
Getting
2 minutes
through
out
kind of
now
that
from
max stressing.
Starship becoming transonic.
One cool thing to note as we get some of
Definitely
those
things
views
looking good
showing
so
kind
far.
of the whole
We're
length
about
of the
2
ship.
minutes out now
One of the
from
changes we
Starship
made
becoming
after Flight
transonic.
6
One
was
cool
to
thing to note as we get some of those
change the
views
tile
showing
line a
kind
little
of
bit.
the
So we had
whole length
kind of
of the ship.
scaled back the number of tiles.
One of the changes we made after
significantly is
Flight 6
when we
was
go to
to
catch these ships, you don't want to
change the tile line a
You
little
don't want
bit.
to
So
shuck
we had kind
the
of
ship
scaled
as you
back
catch
the number
it
of
and knock all
tiles
those tiles off. So we
significantly.
knew we were going to have to kind
when
of
we go to
peel
catch
back
these ships, you
that
don't
layer
wanna,
a little bit. And the
I think
first
as
time we
Elon said,
did
you don't
it
want to shuck the,
was on
the
Flight
ship
6,
as
and we
you catch
saw
it and knock all those
kind of
tiles off. So we knew we
wrinkling
were
and
going to have to
dimples
kind of
almost
peel
in the
back
ship as we were
that
creating
layer a
these
little
hot
bit. And the first
spots
time
in
we
the
did it
uneven parts
was
of
on
the
Flight
heat
6,
shield.
and we saw
And so we
kind of wrinkling and
kind of
dimples
addressed that.
almost
We
in the
smoothed
ship
it
as
out.
we were
That's why you
creating
got kind
these
of that
hot
nice
spots
smoothed
in
out
the
black
uneven
line now
parts of
on
the
the ship.
heat
And just
shield.
looking at it,
And so
we can see
we
kind of a little bit of hot
address
spot,
that,
a little
smoothed
bit
it
of
out. That's why
warping
you got
almost.
kind of that nice
Near the
smoothed out
payload
black
door, you
line
can
now
see a little
on
bit
the
of
ship,
colored
and just
patina
looking at
up
it, we
above
can
it,
see
but we don't
kind of
see
a
those
little
kind of
bit of
deep,
hot spot, a little bit of
almost
warping almost.
they
Near the
almost look
payload
like
door, you
gouges,
can see a little bit of colored
on that.
patina
So
up
it looks
above
like
it,
that's
but we don't
that's been
see
pretty
those kind of
successful.
deep,
So
almost.
We've done
all
it.
right, we are less
They almost look like
than
gouges
a minute away from
on that.
from hitting
so it looks
transonic.
like that's
Man,
that's been pretty
pretty
so-
soon
successful.
our kind of
We're about to
forward
see.
velocity
we
is
are
gonna
less-
look like it's
All right.
then
I'm-
falling off.
I'm gonna cut
and
sound here
Starship
because
will
I
look like
cannot think straight listening to him talk at the same time. No, I have nothing against him. I have trouble speaking and thinking when he's talking. So, ship is coming into its transonic phase. You're gonna start seeing it. It's going kind of like sideways right now into the atmosphere, but here in a second you're gonna see it just pretty much go like straight horizontal, belly first down towards the surface of the Earth as gravity takes control fully of everything. But gravity's been in control, but it's really gonna start to just pull it straight down towards the surface as it slows down. It doesn't have any more horizontal velocity. It's bled all that off, so it's not able to go across anymore. So the only place it can go is straight down. You can see those cameras shaking. A lot of things starting to shake as we hit those really dense parts of the atmosphere now. Lot of speed bleeding off. We're still 23 kilometers up, which is insane to see how much this thing has slowed down. And it's still so high up, which means it's going to just continue to slow down. Keep an eye on the speed here, the speed telemetry at the bottom. Because this thing gets extremely slow in its final belly flop descent back down towards the surface. See those flaps taking full control of it. Look at that glow. Look at the sunrise across the Earth's surface in that camera view. That is beautiful. We still have a little bit to go. Starship landing is coming up though. What to expect here? It's going to belly flop down through the clouds, and then right at about, I want to say like 300 meters or something. You'll see engine relight. The ship is going to flip itself back vertical, and then it will have a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean. Look at that flap. You can see a lot better in the daylight now. The absolute destruction on the base of that flap where that hinge blew out and the atmosphere ravaged the base of that flap. But it's still working the way it's supposed to. It's probably not as effective as it was before, but it is definitely maintained its orientation. So really nice to see it working. Looks like that flap is working a little bit harder to maintain its orientation because it's missing that third hinge, but so far so good. Coming up on landing. I will give you guys the volume back because I always like to listen to the cheering here as engine relight and stuff happens.
Eventually go down to just 2 Raptors for the
Just
end
about
of
1 minute
the
now
landing
from that
burn.
landing flip and landing burn start.
1 minute till landing. Here we go. Starship is doing it.
Just
It is
about 1
working
minute
so
now
far.
from that landing flip.
There are
and
5
landing burn
kilometers.
start.
You can see the speed, how low it's gone. We're down to just over 400 kilometers an hour, which for something that just re-entered Earth's atmosphere is extremely slow. I don't even think Falcon 9, well, obviously the boosters, Falcon 9 booster and Super Heavy booster don't get this slow
Structurally,
right
we're
before they're
looking
landing.
Good. Got good pressures in our nose cone for everything. Structurally, we're looking
30
good.
seconds, you're going to
Got
see the
good
3
pressures in our
center
nose
Raptor
cone
engines
for
light up.
everything. So Starship's doing its belly flop right now. We're going to do the flip.
About 30
Swing out.
seconds.
Let's punch through some clouds first.
Again, we're going to look for the flip. So
Here we go.
Starship's doing its belly
Here we
flop
go.
right now. We're going to do the flip.
You're going to watch the flaps
Swing
tuck
out.
in.
Let's
The
punch
flaps will
through some
tuck in
clouds
to
first.
encourage the flip to happen.
Here we go.
There's the ocean.
Starship landing burn start up.
Come on, tuck in. Give us those views.
Here we
Seeing
go.
3
There's the
engines.
flip. All 3 engines are up.
Starship landing burn start up.
There's our flip.
Oh! Oh!
Seeing 3
Look at the
engines.
belly!
There's a,
Oh my goodness!
there's a splashdown. There's a
Wow!
There's a splashdown.
Oh my goodness.
Hey. Oh man. Yeah. Farewell, ship 37.
So there it
Thank you,
was.
buoy cam.
You guys, there was our landing. I'm gonna cut the shouting and stuff off here so I can think and talk. But we just had our first successful flight of Starship V2. This is an awesome milestone to see. They finally made it through reentry on V2. You can see the belly of the ship there. I'm going to rewind this because I want to pause it right at when landing happened. Let's come back just a little bit more. I'll pull up the feed here in a second once I get it paused. But this thing got very toasty. You could see how toasty this thing got, which was intentional. It was all a part of the design. All right, here we go. So look at the orange. This thing is still glowing red hot after re-entering the atmosphere. I don't know if that is the tiles themselves that are still glowing orange or if the tiles got stripped off. It's hard to tell because of the latency and of the video feed here. But all 3 Raptor engines relit, flipped it vertical to come down for a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean. But the entire top of the nose, like the entire nose cone, is completely white, which makes me think that the black material on the heat shield completely got stripped off from the nose up there. So I don't know if that's just because of the flight profile today where they kind of pushed it a bit harder than they usually would and that stripped the tiles off, or if there was just actually an issue with the heat shield tiles there. But nonetheless, it still made it through in one piece. And other than the hinge breaking off on that aft flap, that was the only thing that kind of went wrong today. My camera keeps cutting off on me. But that was the only thing that kind of seemed to go wrong today, was that aft flap losing its 3rd hinge. But look at that view of Starship. That is glowing hot. Like, that is a hot Starship, toasty Starship coming down to the ocean. And obviously you saw it blow up there at the end after it had its splashdown. But that is just step 1 to bringing this thing back to the launch site. It is awesome to finally see this thing succeed, make it through all the milestones that was meant for it after the past 3 flights. I kind of said it earlier, we had a similar pattern with the V1 Starship where it took 4 flights for them to get that thing all the way through reentry and to the landing phase. So we're here again, 4th flight of Starship V2, and it worked. It got through reentry down to splashdown, and you can see here that it is right on target because it's right next to the buoy they had set up in the ocean with the camera feed set up. So it was right on target where it needed to be. Didn't go too far or out of the exclusion zone or like its targeted zone. So this is just step 1 to getting this thing back to the launch site. I'm assuming Flight 11 is going to follow a very similar approach. Like I was saying earlier, I think Flight 11 is going to be the first flight of Super Heavy V3. So it'll be exciting to see if that is true or not, or if the information I had gathered was wrong. But we're going to see hopefully another booster catch on Flight 11, and then we will see the ship splash down the Indian Ocean one more time. And then as long as they're feeling good about that, I think Flight 12 can be our return to launch site. So I am looking forward to seeing what they're going to do here in the next couple of flights. I want to make it back down to Starbase for Flight 12, if that ends up being the one where they're catching the ship in the tower. So we will see what happens, but I'm overwhelmed with happiness to finally see this work. That was well worth the wait. Third time was the charm to get Flight 10 off the pad, and third time the wait. Fourth time was the charm. Something about all of this, all of the stars aligned correctly. We finally got a successful flight of Starship V2. So I'm at a loss of words, but I also have a lot of words to say. It's kind of the mood I'm in right now, just overwhelmed with happiness to see this working. So with that, though, I think that's it. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this. So looking at the comments here, coming down for it. Splashdown, yes, it was. Han Solo, don't worry, she'll hold together. You hear me, baby? Hold together. Yep, that's kind of my mindset. And watching that, I wasn't so sure there at the. I saw that flap, the hinge of the flap break off, and so I wasn't sure what to expect there right at the start of reentry, but it made it through in one piece. Well, looked like it made it into one piece. That heat shield wasn't looking too good, but made it through max Q. You could see them intentionally push those flaps like straight out into the airstream, and they didn't like fold back on themselves or anything because the pressure was too much. So that was good to see. That was nice. All of their test objectives were successful. We got to see that payload deploy, the simulated Starlinks. So hopefully here in the next few flights, we're going to get to see Starship go into a complete orbit and start deploying like actual satellites, which will be awesome. But I'm not seeing anything else here in the comments. Dougal Dog, great stuff. Thanks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us today and watching along with me. I definitely hope to keep bringing these streams to you guys, since, as I was saying, SpaceX took all their streams off of YouTube and they're exclusively on X now. So definitely want to continue. Even if I can't make it out to Starbase, definitely want to keep bringing the SpaceX views to YouTube for you guys to see. I just realized I'm showing you guys my my live thing with the chat here, so I don't think there's anything, nothing there that's going to give away any type of information, but there's my analytics. You can see the analytics of this stream so far. But SpaceX ended their stream. They cut that off pretty quickly. But that's about it. That's all I have to say on that. We got to see a successful flight on Starship, so I'm looking forward to Flight 11. I hope SpaceX can continue this upwards trend from here, and we're going to continue seeing success with Starship on V2 after all of those very unfortunate turnouts on the past 3 flights. So with that, I think I am also going to end my stream off here. Because what else is there to talk about? You guys saw what happened. I don't have to say anything else. It's self-explanatory. So that was very nice to see. I'm excited for the future. I know I've said that like several times already, but I'm just excited. So, and I'm excited to get back down to Texas in person as well to see this thing launch again. Hopefully we can see a booster catch again. Because obviously when I was down in Texas last time, I didn't get to see a booster catch. So next time I go to Texas, we're going to get a booster catch. And hopefully we're going to get to see a ship catch as well. Because they're not going to be caught by the same tower. They're currently building the second launch tower. And so I think the current plan is to catch booster on one tower, catch ship on the second tower. And that way they're kind of spread apart and there's no issues with them potentially like colliding with each other, the two vehicles colliding or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope we can get down there to Texas to see the first ever ship catch and see a booster catch as well. I've got plans for the future. I've got plans. So everyone stick around. Make sure you are subscribed because I think there's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming to the channel here in the future. So with that being said, though, I'm going to close the stream off and finally go relax and not worry about Starship and not wonder if it's going to break or not. So I guess I will see you all next time. Yeah, I was saying yesterday, I haven't figured out an outro like some of the other guys here on YouTube do. Some of these guys have like word for word the exact outro they use. I haven't figured that out. I don't know what my outro is going to be, what my closing statement or my closing line is going to be. But stick around, subscribe so you do not miss any more content in the future, because I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that I've got coming in the future. And with that, I'll see you all next time on another Starship launch or rocket launch in general. I'll see you guys next time. That's all I got to say. So see you guys. Stick around, subscribe so you do not miss any more content in the future, because I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that I've got coming in the future. And with that, I'll see you all next time on another Starship launch or rocket launch in general. I'll see you guys next time. That's all I got to say. So see you guys.